Well, hey there, hobby homesteaders. Welcome back to Peaks Peak. If you're new to the channel, I'm Lucas, and me and my family are sharing our hobbies here on our 38 acres in eastern Kentucky, and we are glad to have you. In today's part of the story, we are going to be working on the area that we're going to set up this sawmill. We just got this sawmill brought up here a couple of days ago, put a tarp over it, and our plan is to build a set of bunks to permanently mount the rails to, and then we're going to build a shed over the top of it. Now, we are not going to start with milled lumber for our shed because I want to get this thing under roof as quickly as possible to keep it out of the weather. So I picked up some posts, some 6x6 posts from Lowe's, and we are going to start the project with those. And I may pick up some headers because we're going to need a 16-foot span so that we have a big entrance to bring logs into. Once I get that done, then I hope to start milling our own lumber for the rest of the project, as well as milling our own lumber so that we can build a wood shed over here where we're going to set up a log splitter and start splitting firewood and getting it stored and seasoned. We get our log staging area over here. And then here where I have the posts staged right now is where I am anticipating building a shed to store the lumber in. So my idea is that the prevailing winds and the weather come from this direction over here. So if I can build the sawmill shed and the lumber storage over here with the backsides facing the weather, then I can put walls on the backside where we store the lumber and keep most of the weather off of that. And I won't put an entire wall on the backside of the milling area because I kind of want open air to work in. But we will slant the roof down to where it should keep a lot of the weather off of the mill that way. So that's the overview of our project. Okay, I've got the layout of the shed actually staked in the four corners. I measured out my diagonals to square it up so that I knew I'm in the location I want to be. My shed corner posts are going to be 8 foot apart and 25 foot long. So 8 foot deep, 25 foot long. That'll give us room on each side of the mill, and the 25 foot length will give us room on the back side of the head to put some shelves on the wall and walk around the mill back there. So that's kind of the plan there. I got quick setting concrete. I'm going to pour a little bit in the bottom of the hole for it to be a base, and then tamp in around that with the dirt. And so we're not going to use all that much concrete. I'm not actually setting these posts in concrete. The dirt will hold them in place, and then the concrete footing underneath of it is what will kind of be the footer for the mill. So I'm going to get me some lengths of posts cut with a chainsaw, get them ready to go. Cameron's bringing me up a set of post hole diggers so I can clean the dirt out of the holes, and then we'll be ready to roll. Hey, Banjo. You having fun? What you got? You got a stick? Hey, come here.
You don't like the camera.
Yeah, you good dog, aren't you? Had the camera bring me the post hole diggers up so I could clean the extra dirt out of my hole. So we're gonna give that concrete about 10 minutes to set up, and then we will put our posts down in there and just tamp the dirt back in around them. And then we'll pull a string across there so that we got a good straight line to follow to set our other posts. Okay. Now we will likely use chainsaw to cut the top of these all off once we get the string across there and figure out the level point across there to set our railroad ties on. And that right there is going to make a firm base for the sawmill. I like it. Hey, looky here. Here comes some relief. I ran out of water, so I had to call for reinforcements. What you got, bud?
Water.
Brought me Patrick Stall. This will get me started. I'm gonna go pour this in my cup. You wanna hang out? What you up to? Oh, yeah. What you got on your shirt there?
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast? Who's Mr. Beast? He's probably one of them small-time YouTubers.
No, don't be acting silly.
Maybe I could give him a shout-out and see if I can get him some attention on YouTube.
He ain't your style.
No, he ain't my style, that's right. But he's successful, that's for sure. Why you take my side-by-side apart? I don't need any help tearing this thing up. Thanks for the water, bro. You gonna help me out?
What are you doing?
Setting posts for where my mill's gonna sit. Gotta pour water in all the holes. You wanna come help? Take this water jug and just pour some water in the holes. All 4 of these need some water. So there you go. Just pour until I say stop. Keep going. That's good. All right, hit the next one. That's good. Next one. Over on this side over here. Yeah. That's pretty good on that one, I'd say. Maybe come back to this one just a little bit. That's probably good. There's the lid. You want to carry these and set them by the holes. While you're doing that, I'm gonna start setting the next ones in and getting a little dirt in around them. All right, well, Caden went down to get me some more GoPro batteries because my cameras are dying. And I'm gonna drill my 2 corner posts. All right, stretch a string, drill 4 holes, and we will be in business. Caden brought Taco Bell and a Band-Aid. Nothing like sealing in a little dirt. That's how you get the bleeding stopped, to pack a little dirt in it. All right, tie-dyed thumb. I'm gonna keep working because I wanna get these posts in the ground before it gets dark. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't worry about leveling these posts up because when I get done, there's going to be very little of that post sticking up out of the ground. I'm gonna find the lowest spot and basically cut them off a couple of inches above the dirt. As long as I can keep my saw out of the dirt is all I'm worried about. That way, my railroad ties are sitting almost on the ground. Just enough to screw to is all I need. And then these will be the footer for the railroad ties to sit on so they don't move around. That's kind of my overall plan. So I won't have more than a few inches sticking up above the ground, so it really doesn't matter if they're just a little bit crooked. Riding the trails. So all of my neighbors are mowing their grass. I guess that can only mean one thing. I'll mow mine in a few weeks. I usually let mine get a little bit shaggy. We'll get to it. That boy's crazy as I am. I'm all right with it. All right, guys, well, this was a good evening of work. I'm excited to get these pillars in the ground because we'll be all set to put our railroad ties on next. So I set all of these posts. I poured concrete in the bottom of the holes. I set 6x6 posts in the holes so that I can put railroad ties on top of them and then mount my sawmill to that. So I'll have a good solid footing, and we will permanently screw the base of the sawmill down to the railroad ties so that nothing moves around. That way, when you're setting heavy logs on, I won't have to constantly re-level the mill and that sort of thing. So that's the idea behind all of this. I cut me some brackets to bolt the railroad ties to my base, but the first thing we got to do is stretch a string and a line level and get all of these posts cut off level so that we can start staging our railroad ties. It's going to be a good time, and I get to use my new grapple on the Kubota. This is going to work out pretty much exactly like I wanted. I know my ground is not perfectly level. I've got basically this end down here is up off the ground probably 6 inches. That end down there will only be about 3 inches. I basically wanted my railroad ties to be as close to the ground as I could get them and still put this bracket on the side and put my lag bolts through the 6x6 and into the railroad ties to kind of tie it all together. So this is going to work out just great. So I'm going to get these posts marked and then chop them off with a chainsaw, get ready to set some railroad ties. All right, y'all, got my riot gear on, and I've got the old steel farm boss out because I'm going to be making all these cuts pretty close to the dirt, and two, I'm going to be cutting these railroad ties, and I didn't want to put any of my new chains, my new saws through that. So figure it'd be one good reason to get the old farm boss out. So got my chaps on, got my helmet on, got my eye protection on. Let's get to it. this ain't going too bad. The railroad ties are a little harder to work with than I pictured because they're just not quite uniform, which means that I'll end up having my legs at different heights down through here. But you can see, you know, this one's a little skinnier than this one and so forth. But it's still gonna give me a good solid base to work with, so I'm still gonna roll with it. I think it's gonna work just fine. Now I'll tell you, at the moment I'm not putting all of my bolts and screws in because I did not bring extra batteries up. And because I did not bring extra batteries up, I don't want my batteries to go dead before I get all of my posts set in place. Because I've got the tractor up here right now, and it's a slow ride up and down the hill. So I want to get this finished. And then once I get all of my railroad ties set in place temporarily, well, set in place with a few bolts, then I'll go get more batteries and we'll finish screwing everything down. I've got some big old lag screws and stuff to put aside from these metal plates that I put on here. We'll go 42. All right, guys, we've got rails to mount our sawmill on. And you know, this project, honestly, they didn't quite turn out looking exactly like I was expecting. Using railroad ties, I kind of didn't think about the fact that they're imperfect. So they're like different widths, different thicknesses, and some of them are a little more weathered than others and all of that. And these are decent, but I turned them up on edge to get kind of a good smooth surface, but we still have, some of them are taller than others. So all in all, it's not just like, you know, a perfect set of rails like I was picturing in my mind, but it's not gonna hurt anything because of course you have adjustable feet on the sawmill. And what I was after was a good, solid, sturdy base that's not going to be shaky, and it will give us a platform to where when I go setting heavy logs on there or sliding logs on with the tractor and pushing a little bit, getting a little bit too rowdy, that sort of thing, I'm not going to knock the mill out of level. I want it to be firmly mounted so that typically it stays in position. We definitely are going to have that. This is a nice solid base here, so I like it. Not to mention our height came out just almost perfect. I was looking for somewhere between 15 and 18 inches to raise the mill bed up. And then I can decide if I want a few inches more height or not by raising and lowering the legs, because they're about 4 or 5 inches of adjustment there that I can either make it just a little bit higher if I want to, or lower it down all the way. I don't want it too high because I don't want to have to raise logs up any higher than I have to with my little machine. I also feel like it gives me more leverage with a cant hook when it's down a little bit lower, but I didn't want it all the way on the ground. So this is what we've gone with. I think it's going to work out pretty good. I kept the width of these just almost exactly the width of the rails. So we've got, yeah, 33.5 inches. So I'll have about 1.5 inches on each side of the rails. I think we got it. So I'm hoping tomorrow evening I'll have enough time that I can come up here. I'll probably bring my bucket forks because I figured out that I can lift that mill head on the outside of the rails and pick it up. So I'll pick it up and set it off of there. I'll move the bunks over here and get them in position, and then I'll set the mill head back on top of it. Now, one other thing I wanted to share is that I made these rails 20 foot long. Now, we only have 13 foot rails on our mill bed, but MechMax offers a bed extension so that you can mill up to 16 foot logs. I probably won't mill 16 foot lumber, but what I found was it's even more difficult to mill 10 foot logs on the short bed, and I want the opportunity to mill 12 or 14 foot logs if I have them. For instance, on the mill shed, I'm going to want some headers and some boards long enough to make these spans, but right now I don't have the capability of making that type of board because the rails are short. So I plan on getting that bed extension, and that way I'll have a whole 20 foot to set up those rails. That should work out well. Making progress, but we got a lot of work to do. Guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. We appreciate y'all watching. Until next time, don't forget to get outside and enjoy God's creation. It's beautiful out here. Y'all have a good day.